Keanu was a man many people respected. He was famous, yes, but more than that, he was kind. He treated everyone the same, whether they were rich or poor, famous or not. His house was peaceful, clean, and quiet. That's how he liked it. He didn't throw parties or act like a star. He enjoyed his tea, his books, and the silence of home. But all that changed the day Bryce came in. Bryce was a young man, hired through a trusted home staff agency. He had a good record, clean background, and seemed polite during the interview. He said, "Sir," and "thank you," and acted helpful. Keanu thought he'd found someone trustworthy. He didn't need much, just help around the house maybe. Some grocery shopping, light cleaning, and handling deliveries when he wasn't home. Bryce said he could do it all. So Keanu hired him. At first, everything looked perfect. The house stayed tidy, the fridge was full, and packages were placed neatly on the entry table. Bryce even made tea just the way Keanu liked it. He smiled, followed instructions, and didn't talk too much. But something about him felt odd. Keanu didn't notice it right away, but his close friends did. One of his longtime friends, Nina, stopped by for coffee one afternoon. After Bryce left the room, Nina leaned over and whispered, "That guy gives me strange vibes, I don't know. Something feels fake." Keanu laughed it off. "He's just new. Give him time." But the feeling didn't go away. A few days later, Keanu came home earlier than expected. He had been filming, but the shoot ended early. As he stepped through the door, he heard voices coming from the kitchen. He stopped walking. Bryce was on the phone, and he was talking about Keanu. "Yeah. He acts like he's some kind of saint," Bryce said, laughing. "But he's just a sad, lonely guy. You should see how quiet this place is. It's like working for a ghost." Keanu stood still. He wasn't angry, just surprised. He took a step back and went to his room, pretending he hadn't heard anything. Maybe Bryce was just venting. Maybe it wasn't serious. But then it happened again. Later that week, a delivery man stopped by with groceries. Keanu was in the hallway and overheard Bryce chatting with him at the door. "Yeah, it's Keanu's place. He's rich but weird, like too nice, you know? I swear, the guy probably talks to plants." The delivery guy laughed. Bryce laughed louder. That night, Keanu sat at the edge of his bed, silent. He felt foolish. He had given Bryce trust, space, and comfort. But Bryce mocked him like he was a joke. It wasn't just rude, it was mean. He didn't say anything the next day, or the day after that. Instead, Keanu started watching. He noticed how Bryce acted differently depending on who was around. When Keanu was near, he was respectful. But when he thought Keanu wasn't listening, he made little comments, small, sharp, insulting. Sometimes to visitors. Sometimes even to the neighbor's kid who came over to play piano. The final moment came a week later. Keanu was walking toward the garage when he spotted Bryce chatting with a courier. The man handed him a small envelope, and Bryce whispered, "I might have something juicy for your blog next week." "You didn't get it from me." Keanu stopped in his tracks. It was enough, but he didn't scream. He didn't argue. He just stood quietly, unnoticed. He waited until Bryce left, then called a tech friend to help him set up a few small legal recording devices around the house. Not to spy, just to confirm. Keanu didn't want to fire someone based on guesses. He needed truth. What he heard over the next 2 days broke his heart. Bryce mocked Keanu's past. He laughed about the loss Keanu had experienced years ago. He joked about how people feel bad for him because of that sad story and said, "I'm just waiting until I get something big to sell." He won't see it coming. Keanu played the recordings 3 times. Not because he couldn't believe it, but because he needed to feel the pain enough to act. He had never fired anyone before, but now he was ready, and Bryce had no idea what was coming. Keanu didn't sleep much that night. The words he heard from the recordings stayed in his mind like a storm. He had trusted Bryce. He had offered him peace, safety, and work inside his personal space, his home. But behind his back, Bryce had spit on that kindness. He didn't just talk badly. He had made fun of Keanu's past, his pain, and even planned to sell private stories to gossip blogs. Still, Keanu didn't react in anger. He believed in calm action. The next morning, he greeted Bryce like nothing had happened. His face showed no emotion, just a simple good morning with a soft smile. Bryce, as usual, smiled back, pretending to be the perfect assistant. He didn't know that Keanu now saw him fully, without the mask. But Keanu wasn't done. He wanted to see how far Bryce would go. He wanted to know if others had been hurt too. So he quietly spoke to his neighbor, Mr. Lopez, an old man who sometimes visited to share garden seeds and small talk. "Has Bryce ever said anything strange to you?" Keanu asked softly. Mr. Lopez frowned. "That boy? Yes. He once asked if your money came from some secret deal. I didn't pay much attention, but now that you mention it, he seemed nosy." Then Keanu went to speak to his other part-time staff, a woman named Jessa, who helped with weekend cleaning. At first, Jessa looked nervous. She hesitated. But when Keanu said, "Please be honest. I just want to know the truth," she opened up. "Sir," she said, lowering her voice, "one time when you were away, he told me not to touch anything in your room. He said, 'Don't mess it up, or he'll cry like a baby again, like when he lost his girl.' I was shocked. It was cruel." Keanu felt something heavy press on his chest. Bryce hadn't just betrayed him. He had disrespected the deepest wounds of his life. Still, Keanu said nothing to Bryce. Not yet. Instead, he quietly collected more information. He listened to more recordings, each one showing a clearer picture of Bryce's double face. In one, Bryce told a phone friend, "Keanu's such a joke, man. He thinks I respect him. I'm just here to wait for the right moment. These big stars are all the same, lonely, weak, and blind." In another, he told someone, "You think he really does all this charity stuff because he cares? Nah, it's all for the camera. Off-screen, he's just a ghost walking around his house." But those things weren't true. Everyone who knew Keanu personally, his friends, his old co-workers, his neighbors, all said the same thing. He was genuine. Quiet, yes. Private, yes. But always kind, always respectful, and always helping without needing attention. Keanu realized Bryce's problem wasn't just with him. It was with anyone who lived with dignity. Bryce wanted power. He wanted attention. And when he didn't get it, he turned bitter. The final push came when one of Keanu's delivery drivers showed up with a box of film equipment. After dropping it off, the man paused. "Hey, Mr. Reeves. Not to get involved, but your guy Bryce? He offered me money to take photos of your backyard last week. He said it was for a friend at a magazine. I refused, but thought you should know." Keanu nodded. "Thank you for telling me. That means a lot." He had seen enough. It was time. That night, Keanu sat alone in his living room. The lights were dim, and the whole house was quiet. He listened to the recordings one more time, just to remind himself why he had to act. His hand shook slightly. Not from fear, but from disappointment. He wasn't angry. He wasn't going to shout. But he was going to take back control. Bryce didn't know that his time in the house was over. He walked around freely, laughing on phone calls, even humming while organizing books. But behind that calm face, Keanu was preparing to end it all. No more lies, no more pretending. The guest had overstayed. And the truth? Keanu was no one's fool. The next morning, Keanu sat at the kitchen table, staring at his tea. The steam rose, curling in the air, but he didn't drink it. His eyes were calm, but his heart was heavy. He had always believed in giving people a chance. But now, the truth. About Bryce was too loud to ignore. He remembered the words from the recordings clearly. Words that hurt more than any slap. He's a broken man. Still crying over people who aren't coming back. Everyone thinks he's a saint, but really, he's just an empty shell. He walks around like a ghost. If I pushed hard enough, I bet he'd snap. Those weren't just jokes. They were attacks. Cold, cruel words said by someone who lived under his roof. Someone who ate his food and was trusted to keep his home safe. Keanu had spent years building a quiet, peaceful life after suffering great loss, first his child, then his longtime partner. The grief had changed him. It taught him silence, patience, and kindness. He didn't fight the world. He simply tried to live better than it. But Bryce had taken that goodness and twisted it. Keanu opened his phone and listened to one more clip. From the hidden recorder. Bryce was speaking to someone named Mikey on a video call. "I think I can sell something big soon," Bryce whispered. Photos of his private notes, maybe even a shot of him asleep. You know, stuff people pay. F.O. Keanu's eyes didn't blink. Mikey laughed in the background. "Dude, you're insane," Bryce grinned. "Insane pays." Keanu closed the phone and stood up. He didn't feel pain now. He felt clear. It was time, but he wouldn't explode. He wouldn't lose his dignity. He would face Bryce the way he always faced the world, with calm strength. That afternoon, Keanu asked Bryce to join him in the library room. Bryce entered casually, holding a notebook. "You wanted to go over the schedule, sir?" Keanu nodded and gestured to the chair across from him. Bryce sat down, flipping open the notebook. Keanu said nothing for a moment. Then, without warning, he pressed a small button on his phone. The speakers in the room came alive. From them, Bryce's own voice echoed. "He's just some sad old man pretending to be wise. I could burn this house down, and he'd probably say, 'Thank you.'" Bryce froze. Keanu pressed another button. Another clip. "I'm just waiting for the right angle. One picture, and I'm out of here. Rich for life." Bryce's eyes widened. His face turned pale. His fingers gripped the notebook tightly. Sir, this is all a misunderstanding," he stammered. "I was joking. I didn't mean any of it." Keanu's face didn't change. He sat still, watching Bryce quietly. "You spoke of my pain like it was entertainment," Keanu said softly. "You made fun of the things that nearly destroyed me. And you planned to sell parts of my life." Bryce stood up, panicked now. No, I swear, I got carried away. Please let me explain." Keanu raised a hand and Bryce fell silent. "You were trusted," Keanu said. "You were treated with respect. I never asked for loyalty. Just decency." Bryce looked around, like trying to find a way out. "I was stupid. I didn't think you'd hear any of it. It was just words." Keanu looked into his eyes. "Words reveal the heart," he said. "And yours? I've heard." "Enough." There was silence. Heavy. Cold. Then Keanu stood and picked up an envelope from the table. He handed it to Bryce. "It's your final pay. You're released from duty, effective immediately. I've contacted the agency. They'll be expecting your call." Bryce didn't take the envelope at first. He just stood there, breathing fast, his face tight with fear and shame. "Sir, please. I'll lose everything. Just give me one more chance." Keanu shook his head. "You already had it," he said. "When you stepped into my house." Bryce looked down, then took the envelope slowly. He turned and walked toward the door. His shoulders sagged. As he opened the door, he paused. "I didn't think you'd be this calm about it." Keanu replied quietly, "That's because I'm not like you." And then Bryce was gone. Keanu stood alone in the room. He looked around at the books, the photos, the quiet. For the first time in days, it felt like home again. No more pretending, no more poison. Just peace. Keanu sat down slowly after Bryce left. The door clicked shut behind him, and for the first time in weeks, the house was completely quiet. Not fake quiet, not the kind filled with lies and hidden conversations. It was true silence, like the house itself had finally taken a deep breath. He looked out the window at the garden. The wind moved through the trees, soft and calm. The sunlight hit the stone path just right. He had missed this feeling, peace. For a man like Keanu, peace wasn't about money or fame. It was about safety, about trusting the space around you. And finally, his home felt safe again. Still, his mind kept going back to the moment in the library, the way Bryce had looked. When the recording started playing. First shock, then fear, then fake regret. Keanu had seen it all in his eyes. He didn't need to yell. Bryce had exposed himself. His words were like fire, and now he had burned the bridge completely. But what hurt Keanu the most wasn't the insults. It wasn't even the plan to sell personal stories. It was the betrayal of kindness. Keanu had offered Bryce quiet respect, a chance to work in a calm and warm home. But Bryce didn't value that. Instead, he saw Keanu's kindness as weakness. Keanu walked through the hallway, passing the small details Bryce would never understand. The painting on the wall, it was a gift from an old friend. The chair by the fireplace, that's where his late partner used to sit and read. Even the dog bed in the corner still held memories of a pet long gone. Bryce never asked about those things, never cared. He only looked for things he could use, things he could twist. And now he was gone. But the damage remained. Later that day, Keanu got a call from the agency that had sent Bryce. "We're deeply sorry, Mr. Reeves," the woman said. "We've never had a complaint about him before, but what you've shared is very serious." "I'm not looking for revenge," Keanu replied quietly. "Just make sure he doesn't hurt anyone else the way he tried to hurt me." The agency agreed to remove Bryce from their roster. They promised to investigate further, to protect other clients. After hanging up, Keanu went to the kitchen and made tea, slowly, carefully, like a ritual. He sat at the table, alone, and sipped in silence. The phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Jessa, the part-time cleaner. It read, "Thank you, sir. I heard what happened. We all knew something wasn't right with him. You did the right thing." A few minutes later, another message came from the delivery man. "Saw that guy walking down the street with his bags. Guess he's gone. You good?" Keanu smiled softly. He typed back, "I am now. Thank you." The people around him, the quiet, hardworking ones, had noticed Bryce's behavior too. They had felt uncomfortable but didn't speak up, afraid it might cost them their jobs. Now they felt safer. Keanu realized something important. Sometimes protecting peace isn't just about yourself. It's also about protecting the people around you. People who can't always speak for themselves. People who feel the discomfort, but don't have the power to change it. He walked outside, feeling the air on his skin. It was warm, gentle. He sat on the bench near the small tree he'd planted years ago. It had grown tall, strong, just like he had tried to grow even. After all the loss, he looked up at the sky and closed his eyes. Bryce was gone. The words he spoke still echoed faintly in Keanu's memory, but they no longer had power. They were just noise from someone who never took the time to understand the kind of man Keanu truly was. The house was quiet again. But this time, it wasn't lonely. It was healing. And Keanu knew one thing for sure. He would never let someone like Bryce into his home again. Not because he was afraid, but because he had learned kindness is not weakness. Kindness is strength. With open arms. But when someone spits on that kindness, they no longer deserve to stand in its light. And with that, Keanu got up, walked back inside, and closed the door gently behind him. The next morning, the house felt different. Brighter, lighter. Keanu noticed it the moment he opened his eyes. The air was still. The pressure in his chest, the one he hadn't even noticed building up, was finally gone. He made his way to the kitchen, passing through each room like he was seeing them clearly for the first time in weeks. The windows were open. The light came in naturally. There was no noise, no fake greetings, no footsteps sneaking around. Just peace. Keanu poured himself a cup of tea and sat at the counter. He glanced at the stool where Bryce used to sit while pretending to work on schedules. That spot was empty now. And it felt right. His phone buzzed. A message popped up from Nina, his friend who had visited earlier, the one who had sensed something off about Bryce from the beginning. He's gone, right? She asked. Yes, Keanu replied. Gone yesterday. A few moments later, she sent another message. Proud of you. Some people would have ignored it, but you did what had to be done. Keanu looked at the screen and smiled. It wasn't about pride or winning. It was about doing the right thing. Bryce had crossed too many lines, not just against Keanu, but also against the other people who came through this house with honest work and honest hearts. That same day, Keanu got a call from the staffing agency. It was the manager herself, Mr. Reeves. She began. First, I want to apologize again. We take full responsibility for this. We've removed Bryce from our network and launched an internal review. We also contacted some of our other clients who worked with him. Keanu listened quietly, then said, I hope none of them were hurt the way he tried to hurt me. There were some concerns, the manager admitted. But no one had real proof. Until now, your recordings helped. Keanu nodded. Then I'm glad I recorded them. We'll make sure he doesn't work in another private home again, she promised. That gave Keanu some peace. He wasn't a man who liked ruining lives, but he believed in consequences. People who hurt others for fun shouldn't be given more chances to do it again. Later that afternoon, Jessa came by to collect some cleaning supplies. She looked more relaxed this time, not like before when she walked on eggshells. I heard what you did, she said softly. Thank you. I didn't say anything because I was scared. I need this job, Keanu nodded. You never have to worry about that here. If something ever makes you uncomfortable, speak up. You'll be safe. Her eyes filled with quiet gratitude. You're one of the good ones, sir. We all know it. That evening, something unexpected happened. Keanu was out front watering the plants when a black car pulled up near the gate. A man stepped out. It was the delivery driver who used to bring groceries twice a week. He walked up slowly, holding something in his hands, a folded piece of paper and a small paper bag. Mr. Reeves, he said nervously. I hope it's okay I stopped by. Of course, Keanu replied kindly. What's on your mind? The man handed him the paper. It's a letter from a few of us. Delivery guys, cleaners, staff, just saying thank you. Keanu unfolded the note. It was simple. Just a few lines. Most people don't notice us. You did. Thank you for standing up, not just for yourself, but for us too. Keanu read it twice, then looked at the bag. It's just some cookies, the man said, laughing awkwardly. My mom baked them. She said you deserve something sweet. Keanu smiled warmly and placed a hand on the man's shoulder. Please tell her I'm grateful. And thank you, all of you. The man nodded, then got back in the car and drove away. Keanu went back inside, sat in the kitchen, and opened the bag. The cookies smelled of vanilla and butter. He took one and ate it slowly, thinking, This is why he had to let Bryce go. Because some people watch quietly, some people suffer silently. And sometimes it takes just one person to take action. For others to finally feel safe again. Keanu didn't shout. He didn't fight. He didn't go online to share what happened. But his quiet strength had made a difference. And as he finished the cookie, he realized peace isn't just about being left alone. Peace is when the people around you feel safe, seen and respected. And now, his home had that again. The days after Bryce's exit felt like the sun had finally come out after a long storm. Keanu noticed small changes in himself. He slept better. He smiled more. He didn't feel like he was walking on eggshells in his own house anymore. Even the rooms felt warmer, brighter, like the walls themselves were relieved. But there was something more happening outside of his home. Word was quietly spreading among the workers, drivers, cleaners, neighbors, helpers, people who had once felt uneasy coming to Keanu's house while Bryce was there. Now they were returning. And this time, they felt welcome. One afternoon, Keanu opened the front gate to find Louise, the young gardener who used to help once a week. Louise had stopped showing up months ago without any explanation. Now here he was again, holding a small bag of soil and seeds. "I hope it's okay," Louise said, a little nervous. "I wanted to bring these. They're the same plants we were going to grow before." Keanu smiled. "Of course it's okay. I was wondering where you disappeared to." Louise lowered his eyes. "I didn't feel right coming around anymore. That other guy, he made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Said you didn't need my help anymore." Keanu's smile faded. "I'm sorry, Louise. You should have never been treated that way." "I never told him to say anything like that." Luce nodded. "I believe you. That's why I came back. People are talking. We heard what happened, and we're glad you did what you did." Keanu welcomed him in, and soon they were walking through the garden, talking about where to plant the new flowers. The simple conversation, the laughter, the quiet work, it reminded Keanu of what truly mattered: respect, kindness, trust. A few days later, Jessa brought her teenage son with her. Keanu had met the boy once before, but this time, the boy wasn't shy. He waved, smiled, and even asked questions about the old books in Keanu's study. "I didn't know it was okay to come here," he said. "Mom said it's safe now." Those words hit Keanu harder than he expected. Safe now. He hadn't realized just how much fear Bryce had caused others, even those who were only visitors. His quiet bullying, his cold glances, his sharp words. They had made good people feel small. And Keanu had allowed it to go on, not knowing the full damage being done. But now, that was over. Later that night, Keanu sat on the couch with a notebook. He began writing a letter, not for the public, not for the news, not for social media. Just a letter to himself. A reminder, he wrote: kindness must be protected, even from those who smile while they tear it apart. He paused, then added, people will test your peace. Some will mistake it for weakness. But peace is not the absence of strength, it is the control of it. He closed the notebook and leaned back. The house was silent again, but it no longer felt like emptiness. It felt whole. It felt honest. The next morning, something surprising happened. The staffing agency sent a formal letter, not just of apology, but of thanks. They said Keanu's careful handling of the situation had helped them review their own systems. They were adding new background checks, better support for staff complaints, and even a training program on behavior and respect. We've already heard from 5 other clients who experienced issues with Bryce, but never knew how to handle it. The letter said, your calm and respectful action gave them a voice. Keanu folded the letter and placed it on his desk. He didn't need a reward. He didn't want attention. But knowing that others might be safer now because he had acted, that was enough. As the week passed, the house came alive again. People who had once avoided it now came with smiles. The mailman stayed for small talk. The neighbor's child came by to return a book. Even the birds in the garden seemed to sing louder. Keanu stood one morning on his front porch, looking out at the street. He wasn't just protecting his house anymore. He had protected something much bigger, dignity, and he learned something powerful. Kindness has value. But kindness also has limits. And when someone crosses that line, no matter how quietly, it's okay to stand up, to speak, and to show them the door, because peace is worth protecting. The week after Bryce left, Keanu's life slowly returned to normal, but the meaning of normal was different now. Before, he thought normal was just quiet days, simple meals, and long walks in his garden. Now he saw that normal meant more. And silence. It meant trust. It meant safety. It meant everyone in his home, workers, visitors, even himself, could relax, laugh, and feel respected. Keanu noticed that even his own friends behaved differently now. Nina visited again, bringing fresh fruit and her cheerful spirit. She sat at the kitchen table, pouring tea and telling stories, her laughter filling the house. "This place feels lighter," she said one morning. "I can breathe here again." Keanu smiled. He understood what she meant. The air was free from tension. The rooms no longer held invisible worries. Even his dog, a little terrier named Gus, seemed happier. Gus would nap in sunbeams or follow Jess's son around, tail wagging with real joy. Some of Keanu's other friends encouraged him to speak out about what had happened. They said he should tell the press, warn other famous people, or write about it online. They believed his story could help others and maybe even go viral. But Keanu shook his head. "I don't want to make noise about this," he said gently. "I want to live quietly and show respect, even to those who didn't give it to me." He believed in the power of silence, not the silence of being weak, but the silence of being strong inside. He didn't want revenge. He didn't want Bryce to be shamed all over the world. He just wanted peace for himself and for the people around him. One afternoon, Keanu went for a walk down his street. Neighbors waved at him. Some stopped to chat. They told him little stories about their gardens, their children, or the weather. No one asked about Bryce. No one needed to know the details. But their kindness said everything. They were glad to have Keanu back as himself. When he returned home, Keanu sat down with a notebook. He liked to write his thoughts when things got complicated. He wrote, "Sometimes the loudest answer is no answer at all. You don't have to shout to show your strength. Just live honestly. Just be kind." That night, as he ate dinner, Keanu remembered his mother's advice. Don't let the world change your heart, even when people hurt you. He thought about all the years he had followed those words. People had been cruel to him before, on movie sets, in tabloids, even on the street. But he always tried to treat people gently, no matter how much pain they gave him. Now, after what happened with Bryce, Keanu realized that being gentle didn't mean letting others walk all over him. True strength wasn't in loud words or anger. It was in choosing when to act and when to be silent. It was in protecting your peace and the peace of those around you. A few days later, Keanu received a letter from the staffing agency. Inside was a small note from another worker, someone he didn't know. The note said, "Thank you for not making this public. Thank you for handling it quietly. Because of you, I feel safer at work. You made a difference." Reading the note, Keanu felt warmth in his chest. He never expected thanks. He just did what he believed was right. But knowing his quiet action had helped someone else, that was a reward more precious than any headline or award. That evening, Jessa stayed late to finish her work. Before she left, she stood in the doorway and smiled. "Your house feels like home again," she said. Keanu nodded. "That's all I ever wanted." When the door closed behind her, Keanu looked around. The pictures on the wall, the old books, the gentle light, it all felt peaceful, real, and safe. Keanu knew there would always be difficult people in the world. There would always be those who mistake kindness for weakness. But he also knew that by living true to himself, by protecting his peace and the peace of others, he had already won. He didn't need applause or public praise. He just needed this, a home where every soul could breathe easy and feel valued. That was the quiet lesson Bryce had left behind, a lesson Keanu would never forget. A few weeks after Bryce was gone, The gentle rhythm of life settled back into Keanu's home. It was almost as if nothing had ever happened, except deep down, everything had changed. The air felt fresh, and the sense of safety was stronger than ever. The rooms were no longer filled with quiet tension. Instead, there was laughter, light, and the comfort of small, honest moments. Keanu began every morning the same way, with a quiet cup of tea in the kitchen, sunlight coming through the windows, and his little dog Gus sitting at his feet. Sometimes he would hear Jessa humming while she worked, or the sound of Louise in the garden, gently turning the soil. Even small things, like the mailman whistling as he dropped off letters, reminded Keanu that peace had truly returned. One day, a letter arrived in the mail with a gold seal on the envelope. Keanu opened it, expecting another message from a fan or a neighbor. Instead, it was from the staffing agency. Inside, the letter thanked him once again for handling the Bryce situation with respect and care. They explained how his actions had changed their own company, new training for staff, better support for workers, and a promise to listen to any complaints or worries in the future. The agency said that Keanu's calm response had inspired them to protect all their clients and employees more carefully. Enclosed with the letter was a small stack of handwritten notes. One was from the delivery driver, another from the weekend cleaner, and a few more from people Keanu barely remembered seeing, gardeners, helpers, and neighbors. The notes were all different, but they shared the same feeling. Thank you for showing us that kindness matters. You made us feel safe. We are grateful to work for someone who cares. Reading the notes, Keanu felt a quiet warmth inside him. He hadn't tried to be a hero. He hadn't wanted praise. But he understood now, one person's actions can make a bigger difference than they realize, even when those actions are simple and quiet. Later that week, Nina stopped by with her young daughter. They brought fresh muffins and spent the morning chatting in the sunny kitchen. Nina's daughter giggled as she played with Gus, and Keanu found himself laughing too. For the first time in a long while, he felt completely at ease. As the day went on, Keanu reflected on everything that had happened. He thought about how easy it would have been to ignore Bryce's words, to keep the peace by pretending nothing was wrong. But ignoring disrespect, he realized, only allows it to grow. Kindness isn't just about being gentle. Sometimes it means setting boundaries and standing up for yourself and others. That evening, after Nina and her daughter left, Keanu went outside and walked through his garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky with colors of gold and pink. He breathed in deeply, feeling the calmness all around him. The old pain from the past still lived inside him, but it didn't control him anymore. He had survived, and he had learned. He stopped beside the small tree he'd planted years ago, the one that had grown taller after each season of struggle. As he touched the trunk, he remembered the lesson life had taught him again and again. Kindness has power, but it must be protected. A gentle wind moved through the leaves, and for a moment, Keanu closed his eyes. He thought of the people who had reached out to thank him, the workers who felt safe, and even those who would never know what had happened, but would benefit from the changes made. All of them mattered. Their peace mattered. Just before he went inside, Keanu made a promise to himself. He would always listen, always act with care, and never let anyone treat his home, or the people in it, with disrespect again. Not out of anger or pride, but out of love for the life he had built and the people he shared it with. That night, as the stars came out and the world quieted down, Keanu sat at his desk and wrote a final line in his notebook. Kindness is not endless. There must be a line. And when someone crosses it, it is not wrong to ask them to leave. That is how we protect our homes, our hearts, and each other. He put the notebook away, feeling peaceful and strong. The house around him was quiet, but not empty. It was filled with the echoes of gentle voices, small acts of gratitude, and the unbreakable strength of kindness that knows its own worth. From that day forward, Keanu knew he could trust himself to do what was right, even when it was hard. And he knew, too, that the quiet power of kindness, when defended, could change lives far beyond his own.